Good evening, Danvers. Welcome to the Topics of the Town News. And welcome to Tony Betancourt. He's going to assist me in
Exactly.
getting through this.
Throw my 2 cents in here and there. You know?
Every so often, we need some 2 cents. Welcome again to a local broadcast. The program is providing a forum for our guests, resident commentators, and meant for the Danvers residents. And as you noticed over the years, I have been concentrating only on Danvers. I have enough news broadcasts for the state, federal, and national news that we don't want to get into that. The agenda and opinions are solely by the Topics of the Town host and their guests and commentators. Today, we will look back at 2022. Number of productions in 2022, approximately 25 bi-weekly shows. Number of special productions in 2022, I believe it's been over 10, but we've recorded 10 specials. Number of co-hosts and contributors in 2022 is approximately 20, and I have a list of some of our participants, and I'd just like to give you a quick rundown. Jim Morose, Tony Betancourt, Richard Trask, John Archer, Gardner Trask, Susan Ortons, Eileen Harris, Mark Smith, Eric Crane, Mike Hagan, Keith Lucy, and Matthew Duggan. And I know I have missed some,
I think you have, but yeah.
that's my recollection.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you had Rich Betancourt on a couple times.
So I want to thank Danvers for being our audience over the years. And I believe I have, just for posterity, number of years on the air. We have been on the air as Topics of the Town and What's Your Beef and other names that we've used for 20 plus years. I have 25, and Jenny has verified my number to be close to 20 years. Now, this show has been in production since the location at the School Street
Right, exactly. I remember one time with you guys.
location where we had our studio at that time. So, just to give you a little flavor of what we've accomplished, I went through all of the shows because I have an outline for each and every show on my computer. And one of the things that popped out at me on January 13th, 2022, we initiated a committee to let the town manager that we need a CPA tax. Well, CPA tax went, they got the signatures, they didn't get enough signatures, and it went by. But as we noted, as of last election day in November, there's a table with signatures again. So I just hope that people realize that this CPA tax has not gone away, and it'll continue to be pushed on us because it is $1 million amount that they want to get from our residents. And I don't know if the proper use of this money is not there, and we need to stop this. So, the maneuvering of the committee is a method to extract another $1 million from our residents, and not because they cannot manage the budget. And the budget is fat all the time, every year. Resident concern, working together with state and town municipal political parties and third parties, we had an issue in segment 2 of that show on early mailing, mail-in voting, absentee voting, in-person voting, and machine and the recording of the votes and the process. So that was being explored all along the first part of 2022 in support of the elections that were happening in May. We are embarking into a new era of our social engineering and development that is being taken over by electronic media and the medium. So I have a very interesting clip that I used. The greatest weapon is not a gun or a bomb. It is the control of information. To control the world's information is to manipulate all the minds that consume it. So this is a very appropriate clip that has been used over the years. News story that was also reported at that time is national elections and the Capitol takeover. All of our government has been bought and sold many times over. The cost and effort to get elected to more than local town office takes thousands of, even millions of contributions from our electorate. Then the lobbying begins, and the candidates with goodwill get caught up into a providing favors. Politicians are unpredictable. So this applies to all of our politicians, whether they're local, state, or federal. At that time, in January and February, we also reported on the Massachusetts lawmakers' confirmed agreement on police reform bill. The police reform bill has been in a limbo for many, many weeks, and what has been happening is that they were negotiating things. Our police department in the town of Danvers is very well qualified, and it is accredited according to the Municipal Police Association and the Federal Association. So we have had very little impact on our troops, basically.
We've been very lucky with the police department we
And
have.
the police department has been very good about policing our streets and our infractions that have been happening. The one thing that I have always complained about is that the police log that is being published in the newspaper every so often, not all the time, is not complete. So we need to investigate that a little bit further.
But the newspaper's dying, that's the problem.
Well, the newspapers are dying.
I don't know,
So one of the next clip that I have used in the past is we have been going through closures, pandemic reform, vaccinations requirements, and we have been blocked from gathering in groups of individuals. And I have this little clip here that says how the seeds of the revolution were planted. We met in taverns, we met in restaurants, we met in churches. Understand the closure now? What has happened to Danvers? We went through all of this. And the most disappointing part that I have encountered is that the churches have complied with every single request of the politicians, and the politicians have been wrong. And the thing is that we, as a community, have always been responsive to the needs of all our residents. But during this time of our current controlling rules and guidelines, our leaders overreacted. Our community, because of local and state actions, in collusion with the cover of the governor, has become stagnant and a very sad place to live. We are being trained to become isolated and fearful of large groups gatherings and public meetings, except for unlawful, destructive demonstrations. And then we have to ask ourselves, why are we living through this? So, Tony, I don't know what your experience has been, but I know that the population of Danvers and our families have been so isolated that it's very difficult to get everybody together into one location. Everybody's afraid. Actions of our town leaders have impacted the morale of the taxpayers and now the entire community. The sleeping giant has been poked enough to produce a response to the restrictive rules being initiated in our town. The actions by our elected and appointed leaders cannot go unanswered. The taxpayers and all residents need to resist the collection of taxes to stop feeding the dragon. If the king is unwilling, residents must stop these dictatorial actions.
I agree with that.
Now, we have a clip that I photographed at the town hall down by the clerk's office,
Yes.
and I've used that over
Oh,
and
yes, you
over
have.
again
I don't-
in
I've seen it.
2020, 21, and again in 22. The town of Danvers incorporated in 1757, and the motto is "The King Unwilling." The town meeting is the resource for our legislative actions, and we have not exercised our legislative powers, because I will go into a report on the town meeting, and we can spend $150 million in 10 minutes and then get caught up on minutia.
Well, that's for sure. That seems
And
like
that's
what
what
happens.
they want. So the next story that I was getting to, and I won't go into this, my personal perception about the discourse regarding the coronavirus effects on our children, families, residents, and citizens of Danvers has not wavered since the announcement of the shutdowns and restrictions which we accepted since the initial infections. I want to hear other views from our residents. I have heard of Mark Smith was on our show at one time back in early 22, and he attempted to share his knowledge and viewpoints at the school committee and at the health board meetings. In every case, he was marginalized and shut down during the attempt to present his views. He made too much sense for our town manager appointed committees. There's an incident that happened at the football game of last Monday, where the player was hit hard, but what they don't want to address, and he had a heart attack on the.
I think that's what happened. That hit didn't look like a bad hit, but I guess it was just the coordination was just right. I mean, it's hard to.
But what I have, this is since spring of 2022, when Mark appeared on the show, and he was stressing the point that the vaccines are actually causing some of this reaction to the impact that has happened. And he was very concerned about the children and about the young adults, because that's where the vaccine has been hitting them pretty hard.
If you listen to the news now too, a lot of the stuff is starting to come out. I mean, basically, I mean, if you've seen, I mean, Fauci, I think, covered a lot of stuff up from what I understand. If you see what's going on with Twitter, he's releasing all the stuff he's releasing and stuff like that, showing there was a lot of cover-up. So I mean, it's sad. I mean, it's very. I mean, everybody's body is different. Some people probably can handle the vaccine no problem whatsoever, and other
That's
people
right.
it might be affected a little bit differently. That's the whole
Now-
situation, you know.
Now, in February, I have a clip here of Mama Bear, and this is a show that we conducted. Co-hosts were Michael Hagan and Rick Betancourt in that time. And John Toomey has been absent from our show because of his own. He feels like he can't express himself any better than what we can do, and he has a lot of things to say. I have visited John many times, but he was a co-host on this show, and we really appreciate his time. So the story for the mama bear was related to the outpouring of opposition to what's been going on in our student complaints of discrimination and other infractions. Basically, this was a reaction to the hockey team, to the murder of one of our teachers.
Oh, yeah, that was.
And the thing that has
terrible.
happened is that the children, young adults, are reacting to all that's been happening.
And the Connors Farm incident also didn't help out either.
Absolutely. There's
That didn't help
many-
out. We don't even know what happened there. I mean, because they hushed it up. But I don't know.
Well, the thing is that I think what we need to do is we need to express these views. And what I have been saying for several shows is that the public is afraid to speak out.
Well, it is in a way because you can see it
They're
very easily.
frightened of what can happen as a reaction because they
Yes.
get ostracized, they get accused of racial discrimination.
Yes, you have to watch what you say today. I mean, this world is different.
LGBTQ
Yes.
is prevalent in the high school, and the thing is that I'll just give you one quick example. I went to a interview that I was going to have with one of the administrators at the high school,
Okay.
and all of a sudden I got there at around 1:30. And all of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of students coming out with posters and all LGBTQ and dress and all kinds of things from the auditorium door. And they're coming out to the front door of the high school. And they're marching during school hours.
What?
So that's what triggered me to follow up on some of this reporting that we have been doing. Officials investigate after reports of discrimination at Danvers High School. School officials in Danvers did not reveal specifics of the investigation but alluded to discriminatory behavior, while students say some classmates have routinely used racial language. Now, this is not something to be proud of reporting.
No, but it's
But
been,
I think the residents of Danvers deserve to know what's really going on.
But Mark, this has been going on since when we grew up. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I don't think it's changed much. It's just that they're trying to control it more and make it more what it's supposed
Well,
to. What
they,
it's not.
they
I don't
whitewash
understand
it all the time,
Well,
and
that's
that's
what I'm
where
saying.
the problems become. The students react to some of this sweeping under the rug.
Well, that's the
and
thing. I
don't
mean,
talk about it.
because I mean, it's been going on for a long time, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, when growing up it was the same thing, just now that it's more. It's like more attention's drawn to it and stuff like that, and I think that's what makes it more. It gets inflamed more that way.
Well,
I think.
it gets agitated.
Exactly.
One of the things that we reported on is Baldessari is out as Danvers boy hockey coach.
Yeah.
And he's a policeman in our town. He has dedicated his life to protecting life and property in this town.
I have respect for
And-
him. I think he's a real nice man.
And they basically pushed him out. But that's a choice that he made, and he volunteered for a lot of the hockey team assignments that he had. And now we even have the sports director just resigned last
I did see that.
month.
I mean, I do feel bad for Mr. Baldessari. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he's a real gentleman. You know what I mean?
He is.
And I think he got a bad rap. I mean, it was a lot of negative stuff. I don't think was. I mean, it was beyond his control. I think. I mean, I don't know what they wanted him to do. I mean, you know, he can't put all the blame on him. That's for sure.
Well, the thing is that we can't use that as an excuse. This is more down deep in the community. We, the residents and taxpayers, have been threatened by our government. We must come out and accept our God-given freedoms. Therefore, we are no longer responsible to the unreasonable dictates making us the captives of our government. And our threats to our community are not just medical facts. They're racial threats, they're bullying threats, they are community threats. And we all need to participate in resolving this. And one of the things that we have been trying on the show is that community needs to be involved. It cannot be just a school community. It has to be the 27,000 residents that are involved in this.
But you know
town.
the problem? The problem is too many people working too many hours. No one has time anymore. I mean,
Well, then we have to make time.
I know you
because
do, but
this is not going away.
if taxes keep going up and everything keeps going, people have to work more to pay for this stuff. That's the sad part. That's what's happening. I mean, a lot of people today have to work 2 jobs. I don't know how they, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean,
I know.
I'm glad that I am where I am, because I mean, otherwise, I don't know if I'd be able to survive. I mean,
Well, the thing is that we have to instill in our government, which really is the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and the town meeting, that this town has gone woke to so far that we need to come back to normality. And that's where I think a lot of the residents, and I speak to a lot of residents
I do
on
too.
and off.
I mean, I try to. I mean, I even, walk around sometimes, talk to people and see what's going on. That's how you have an idea what's happening. I mean,
So now I'm going back into February, and we attempted to have a Topics of the Town hall style forum. We invited over 25 people, and we had it right here in the studio.
I remember.
Probably 6 or 7 showed up, and there were some of the participants that have contributed to the show. And there was a lot of discussion that needs to take place in a wider audience.
Well, there's no question about it.
And the thing is that the Board of Selectmen is very contrite in their mechanism of understanding what the residents really want. Recently, they have been willing to listen, and I hope they expand that a little bit more.
Yes, I mean, with the airport situation, it was so far. I mean, they've been listening to this is the most they've listened, and I'm hoping we're going to get somewhere. I mean, really, they have to. They can't back off on this. It's getting ridiculous,
You see, the subjects at that forum were basically conflicting mask and vaccine science, town management, how they have approached this, and they have become as restrictive as the feds and the state. And they're hiding behind the governor, and look at where the governor is. He's out now. Now we have a new governor, which we're going to have to deal with, and we'll be talking about that as a result of what is that governor going to contribute to our town. Resident request for recall election process and the follow-up by the select board.
Right.
There was a petition.
But that got dropped, didn't it?
Well, no, it did not get dropped. It got voted down.
Okay.
With a negative recommendation from the Board of Selectmen. And it went to town meeting, and town meeting didn't want to have anything to do with it either. So are they afraid of the residents? Of the town meeting members? What is going on? Recent request for recall process and the follow-up by the select board, students and parents priorities versus Danvers High School administration priorities. Essex Tech was very much in the news because Essex Tech has been very attractive to our students because they provide an experience and an education that is much higher level than they are in Danvers High School. And Danvers High School has their own issues. They have to educate everyone. But the thing is that Essex Tech is a magnet school, and we should be we should not be limiting the access of our students. Private school academics versus social engineering. That's one of the issues that's been happening in our high schools. Town management actions regarding the CPA tax override. CPA citizens pay again and again. The select board is petitioning for a CPA override while the Beverly Airport real estate taxes are forgiven for years.
I know.
$1 million is left on the table.
There you go. There's your CPA
year.
right there.
And that has been identified again in December when we had the Beverly Airport meeting with the Board of Selectmen.
And from what Mr. Spiliotis told me, it can be changed.
It can be.
Yes.
It's legislative action.
Right.
The thing is that it was...
We don't know what it is.
Well,
That's the
no,
problem.
it was
It's work.
legislative action that happened back in 97, 98, when Wayne Markey, bless his soul, was able to negotiate a non-payment of the real estate taxes for two
Yeah, but
commissioners on the board for the Beverly Airport. The board commissioners are ineffective. They don't really represent Danvers. They represent Beverly Airport.
yes.
So
As I've been going to all the meetings, they actually help the airport out. You're actually forgiving $1 million and you're giving them two people to help out. Whatever the two people are worth, say they're worth, I don't know, $100,000 a year. You're giving even more money on top of it.
Yeah.
And we get nothing.
in March, we announced a First Amendment proverb from the Constitution. Congress shall not make no law respecting the establishments of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridge the freedom of speech, or any of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. At that time, our show was YouTube, in their efforts to censor our voices, has removed the topics of the town from their directory.
Did you ever find out why, though?
No, they won't tell you why. They just didn't like something that we said. We are banned from presenting our content because YouTube claimed we had misinformation. We are now producing this program for DCAT cable programming, and we continue to do that.
Yes, you do.
And it is televised on our cable stations. In May, we had our town elections, and we have stressed the importance of the goal is to deliver a voice to the Danvers residents that will be independent, making the governance process more open and obvious, getting community feedback input and putting it into action, improvement of expectations, technology, and standards. It is time for a change, was the motto at that time. We had elections, the town elections. Mr. Donahue did not succeed in getting elected. The incumbents, David Mills and Dan Bennett, succeeded. But there was a indication that people are not happy with everybody. Paula Jones did not make the school committee candidacy, and Gabe Lopes was elected, and we had a brief introduction about him and his stance at the school committee meeting that really brought out a lot of the parents.
It did, yeah.
And he, at that time, said that the school committee doesn't have the knowledge and ability to govern that school department. But
So-
he got on.
He got elected.
He got elected.
But here we go.
But
He's fallen into suit, I
he's
think.
fallen into the
That's the
deep,
You know why? It's harder to fight everybody. You're better off joining the club.
well, that's why I believe, and
Sad, but
as
seems
you
that
know,
way.
the accomplishments of these school committee members. Right now, we have 4 new school committee members.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
And Eric Crane is the only one
Yeah, he's
left
been
from
there.
the old
Yes, from
establishment.
the old establishment there, yeah.
So now they're going through a selection of the superintendent, and that's what we're going after the show.
Yeah, okay, there's
Because tonight there's going to be a
presentation.
interview and a
Okay.
presentation
I did see something about that on.
of one of the candidates. So now the selectmen have squashed basically the CPA, the recall petition, and all of the items on the agenda for the town meeting were basically not very interesting at this time. But what they did is they had a item on the agenda in regards to the Essex Tech. They wanted legislative action that was being prepared by Senator Lovely and her office to limit the number of students that can go to Essex.
Didn't they pull that back? Didn't they?
And, well, they pulled a little maneuver because they knew that it was going to be voted down.
Okay.
And I even attended that town meeting in the
Okay.
back row
All right.
and listened to this. And what they did is they basically pulled it back because they knew it was going to be defeated. And they're still pursuing that through another committee that's going to be looking at this.
So, in other words, they're going to refine it and come back again.
Well, yeah, they didn't want to, because if it was defeated, it would have been defeated loudly.
Right, and it probably wouldn't come back for a certain amount of time. Is
2
that-
years.
2 years,
probably,
okay.
yeah.
Now they
This
have.
is where Jack, if we can put up our clip of when the people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. And that was a quote from Thomas Jefferson that I've used in the past, and it is so appropriate. I don't understand why we don't live by it. The other item that was in May and June is resident concern regarding the Beverly Airport.
Well, that's yes.
Last remote meeting with Sally Kearns, Senator Lovely, Mayor Cahill, and Scott DeLay, I asked why we had not proceeded with the environmental impact study of the noise beyond the airstrips. Well, no one even wanted to discuss this issue.
Costs too much money.
Delegation to the state has time to demand an impact study on the power plant that is being planned in Peabody,
Exactly.
but are bashful about environmental impact study for the noise and the fumes and the lead fuel and the PSFA
Contaminants on the field,
contamination that has been done at the airport.
And they have lead over there too. They've dug up on the Bellevue side lead. I'm telling
Yes.
you, it has been a while back. There was been. So I mean, there's contamination over there. There's no question about it.
So
That's why they don't want to.
They don't want to uncover anything, and we need to press that. Because
My
that
honest
is
opinion, if they do that study, there's going to be a big change over there.
Well, there has to be a big change.
Well, that's why they don't want to do the study.
Well,
That's why everybody
we
keeps
need
sweeping it
to-
under the rug.
We need to pursue this story with Senator Lovely and Sally Kearns and Mayor Cahill, because he is the culprit
Right.
that's making all
And we're not
this.
asking the town of Danvers to pay for this. This has to be paid by the Beverly Airport.
Right.
City of Beverly or whoever owns it. I mean, they got to pay for that study. Or get the FAA to pay for it. That's their problem. There's so much money that they throw around over there. They're pretty sure they can get the money for a study. The problem is if they do that study, oh my boy, there's going to be a lot.
There you go.
That's
And
the problem.
It's going to be a remediation effort. Okay, so one of the things that I wrote back in April now Awakening of Danvers residents and what really matters. Blind obedience to current dictatorship in government, racial agenda, LGBTQ agenda, and the cultural circumstances. The question I raised at that time is, what is wrong? The town management initiated a new position for our government and the school department to divert the attention for the mismanagement by our elected officials. Why are we dealing with some of these issues where they should be dealt with our leadership, our leaders, our fathers and mothers on the select board, our school committee people that should be dictating what happens in the schools, and as a result of discipline and actions by the school department, it translates into families that are living in our town. There are no real reasons why this communication should be happening only with the school community, because you have basically 3,000 students, and that may involve 2,000 families. Now, what happens to the rest of the community? The rest of the community of 27,000 people are isolated to the point where they don't understand what's really going on. So what we're doing is we're putting on a Band-Aid on a situation which needs to be explored. And I am in the process of planning a show in regard to DEI and all of the woke agenda items that have been happening in our town.
You're correct. And the meeting should be with all the people that go to school. They should have a big format and just talk. But the thing is, hard to get people to go there. I'm telling you, people are working too much today. If you got a family of two, the husband's working during the day, he might come home at night and the wife has to go to work. So it's a tough situation. That's why. I mean, it's not the town's fault, but everything's costing so much money. It's hard to live these days.
Well, you know what? We have to make time for that.
Well, that's the thing. You do.
Our children
are important,
and our young adults, and we have experience of our own. Our children, who are now 40s and mid-40s at least, have been indoctrinated in what the heck is going on already.
I'd have to agree with
because of the high school and of the colleges that they've attended.
Well, that's true.
So the thing is, we need to revert back to basics.
Well, yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to be done, but
it's probably too complicated for us, but there's no question in my mind.
It's not too complicated for us. It is more of an effort that we have to make, and we have to bring on board some of our educated residents that are locked up in their homes.
Well, that's true.
And isolated from the rest of the community.
And they would be very happy to help out.
Yes.
They probably would. I mean, there's no question about
it. This is a call for action from our community.
Especially our seniors. So right. They're retired. You can probably get someone,
Now, we are still in May, but May has basically produced a budget. And as you know, my interest in budgets has always been extensive. And what I have found is that the residents and the taxpayers in this town really don't understand what goes on with their money that they contribute to the town of Danvers. And we're in the $100 million range for tax revenue.
We're growing.
And the rest of it is from state and local, which is taxes. So, like I said earlier, at town meeting, the vote for spending $150 million took 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
And sad. The thing is that our town meeting members need to wake up and request some explanation.
Well, you see what happens at town meeting. If you start talking about issues and stuff like that, they don't like go into that stuff.
Well,
you know
when
what I
I
mean?
was at town meeting, I always stood
Oh,
up
there's
and
no
asked
question
the
about it.
questions.
There's no
And
question
the
about it.
thing is, there's nobody else right now
No.
that's willing to stick their head out. So, one of the clips that I've used in the past, and then this relates back to our technology.
This is your famous one.
Everything that we, in our wisdom, are being fed from the town hall, from the school committee, and to the school community is all on the internet. And they want you to read all of their stuff, and there's just too much of that stuff. And that stuff doesn't really matter.
And some of it's not true.
Well, some of it is not true. Well, I have used Albert Einstein's quote for many, many years now.
Oh, yes.
I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots.
Well, that's what's starting to happen.
And was Albert right? So, I have also another quote, which was basically aired on May 24th, 2022. And this is the one about I don't know what, this is a animal, a rabbit or
Isn't that the coyote or whatever?
Coyote, there you go. And if we can put that one up, Jack, that'll be great, because I miss the good old days.
Yes.
Remember when you could actually have an opinion without offending somebody.
Well, that's true today.
There
have to be
you
careful.
go. There's
Yes,
the
there you go.
coyote.
There's the coyote.
And the coyote is a remembrance of what we used to be. And the thing is that we're so isolated in that little cocoon. And one of the things that I have found in my search for material for this show, and we're getting really close here, is I have a clip that I have sent to Jack, and I like to just put on Mike Hagan as a rookie cop back in the 90s. And I have found that, and boy,
Whoa,
does
here we
he
go.
look
Oh, wow.
different.
Yeah, look at that, huh?
Mike, welcome to the club. Now you're on the retirement rolls, and you were a handsome devil there at one time. So I miss the good old days.
And a tough guy, too.
Remember when you could actually have an opinion without offending somebody, and you were never offended, but you gave tickets out like
crazy.
mad. So welcome to the show. I needed to get you on here. I have
Everybody
now,
knew him.
how COVID-19 has changed the role of government forever. And this is an article that I found, and last year Danvers was promised that if they masked up, practiced social distancing, and limited their travel for just a few weeks, we would be able to move on with our lives, reopen our businesses, and ensure that the medical system was not overwhelmed. Well, I think the medical system in this community and also in the North Shore has basically failed us, because our medical doctors and nurses are the most fearful of all, and they have initiated and put in restrictions in their offices that don't make sense.
As soon as you walk into the office, though, you have to put a mask on.
Yeah,
Whether
I
you're sick or not, they call you. They
what-
want to know if you're
That's
you have
fine.
COVID or whatever.
If
But as soon as you
wanna
walk in,
put- if you want to put your mask on, go right ahead.
not in the doctor's
But,
office.
well, then we need to.
I know. And then you're going to get into the office. If the doctor's a good
Yeah.
person, he tells you to take the mask off, you don't have to. He doesn't care.
I know.
Doesn't make sense,
Their
man.
policies.
Yeah.
I have also got some special requests, and we have lost some of our town officials, basically Wayne
Yeah.
Markey.
Right, no, that was
In,
tragic if you ask me. I mean, really, too young. Poor man,
And
you
he
know.
was 69.
That's what I'm saying.
And the town manager, I worked with him
Yeah.
when I was on the board. He was a gentleman and
Oh,
a
definitely.
scholar. And he was appointed town manager at age 26 when Wayne worked tirelessly for the people of Danvers for the next 3.5 decades. He was the longest serving town manager in our state.
He was a nice man.
And
I mean,
we have complained about him. We have
but that's it. That's how it
we
works.
have also cherished him. We have also respected him
Now-
because he was always there to listen. He didn't always take the discussion the way you would like to, but he at least listened. And that's what we're missing in our town government right now.
We, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Collins, Mr. Toomey, oh, he was a nice man too.
There you go.
needed something. I mean, my God, please.
Well, we
He couldn't do enough for you. I mean, I mean, that's the way I felt. I mean, if you walked in,
we lost
those-
a lot of
Yes.
selectmen and a lot of town
Yes.
officials. So, First Amendment, well, we've lost a lot of rights. The free exercise of religion, I am very disappointed in our religious communities and our ministers, priests, and cardinals. I mean, they have basically asked us to go in hiding. And the thing is, this is a community, it's a religion, it's an exercise of your beliefs. We have lost freedom of speech. As you've noted, YouTube has canceled us, and we have been canceled other times after that. Freedom of the press has been largely nullified by a united front of monopolitics, big media ideologies, who, in cooperation with big tech, openly and dishonestly attack the alternative media as we are an alternative media right here. Freedom of assembly. We have been barred from meeting more than 10 people at a time.
well, they don't want that.
Well, that's because they can get some reaction.
Right.
The-
If they see something like that, they're going to send a police officer.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll use this again, but that's what's coming. Red light camera plan was eyed by the state. I still don't know whether that's been implemented or not.
No, it's,
But the police action that they have implemented, there's a topics of the town. We did an overview in regards to the red light cameras, which were going to generate an
Right.
awful lot of money.
is that
for
legal in
tickets.
Mass, though? Is it legal in Mass? I know some states
Well,
it's not
we
legal.
don't know that yet. I don't believe it's been legalized yet, has been passed.
Virginia, I think Virginia has it on the books.
Yes.
I think Virginia has it on the books. That I know.
So we have to watch out for this because this is quietly moving along.
well, that's what they're trying to.
So the next thing is Danvers. The things that we have discussed over the shows is 2.5 overrides. Danvers Family Festival has been eliminated. Danvers chemical explosion has happened.
Yes.
And there's another explosion that happened on Route 114. Remember the NASA, they were making fuel for the rockets up there, and now they have housing all over there. So this is down by Route 1 and 114 and 95 crossing right there.
Okay.
Teachers murder and associated lawsuits.
Oh.
They're still pending.
I'm telling you, that
Thin
was.
blue line flag issue came
Oh
about.
God, please. That
And I'm
was,
telling you, that one caused a ruckus, but it needed to be explored because we do not need dictators from the left. And this was a overreaction by the town manager, and the town manager is at fault for doing this to our community. Also in June, I believe, we have my friend Dana,
he was
Dana Foy,
oh God, he was a nice man.
who was
a very nice
a
man.
Danvers. He died on June 30th, 2022. Dana was a gentleman and a friend with extra energy.
Yes.
He was always agitated. Dana was always available to help friends, town, and country. Dana served honorably in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam era. And speaking of Vietnam era, I have today received a calendar from the Vietnam War Memorial. And this sort of reflects back to my college years. And Dana was serving in the service at that time. I escaped in the lottery that Nixon implemented, and my number was 263, I believe.
What I miss about Dana was, he had a place down in South Carolina.
Yes.
And I talked to him a couple of times. He told me, I drove down one time and I went through Virginia. He told me he used to go through the Poconos,
Yep.
And I was going to one time sit down and ask him how about that route, because he said it was a beautiful route. It was the same amount of time, but it was different. I never got to ask him about it.
Well,
You know?
you can talk to Shirley, his wife.
Yeah, hopefully
and
she
she'll
knows.
tell you about it as well. The other story that was happening in July, on Sunday, no, this was in June, at the Peabody Institute grounds, a drag queen reading was taking place
Where?
at behind the library. After hearing about some alarming features regarding drag queens and their dictatorial initiatives in the locale, some residents observed last Sunday's drag queen readings at the Danvers Public Library grounds.
Are you serious?
I went and interviewed some people, but I also went to the library because library gave permission to have that held on their grounds.
Then they wonder why we have problems.
Some of the books that are in the mass libraries and should not be are genderqueer, queer and all get out. This book is gay. A is for activist. There are some others that we are going to go into the library and identify those, because it's time for the Danvers to speak up with a united voice to tell the education establishment we're watching. And the library is part of the education establishment. And we want them to stop indoctrinating our kids with radical left propaganda. The indoctrination in our schools is being disguised and needs to be exposed. Parents and community must ask for leadership from our school committee. We need public communication and not the dribble on the websites rarely opened by our residents. Technology is not the answer for communications. We have limited time today, but I would like to just go forward into some stories that we had. I have a clip here for the rail trail, but I'll save that for another time. That is proceeding, and it's the issue with that rail trail is that it has to cross under, over, through 95 and Route 1.
If you remember, when this thing was proposed, we're not supposed to use any money from the town.
That's right.
That's what was proposed. That's how it was sold.
Well,
and now they're using all kinds of money from the town to do this.
The town is funding this.
Well, I know. That wasn't the deal. That wasn't what we were sold when it was proposed.
Yeah. The last thing that I like to do is I had a opportunity to televise a SEL presentation, which was conducted in Newburyport. And what really is being taught in our schools with the regard to the buzzwords social emotional learning. And we will be talking about that later, but that was one of the things you should look out for in our repertoire of our programming. The last item here is basically October 20th. We reported on the elections for November, and one of the people that was very willing to go and serve on the representative for the 13th district was Michael Bean. He was write-in vote for.
He didn't get much votes, though, did he?
He got a few votes. He got enough votes to place himself on the ballot, but the judge at that time said that he was too late in his petition, so he was a write-in on the November ballot. Now, the last item.
Sally's doing a good job, though. I mean,
well,
she's doing a good job. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
We will get to the Beverly Airport later, but what I want to do is, there was a Board of Selectmen's meeting that was held in the fall of 2022, and Mark Lentini reflected my assertion over the last 3 years about retirements, resignations, firing, and just getting out of town management style. 120 employees per year were a turnover in our town, and that was in reflection. The defunding of our police, the fire has been going on without consensus of the selectmen, knowing what is going on. Recent staff was 7 officers short. Where did the funding go?
Yes.
And they did fund additional police, but why did we wait for 7 officers over that time? It is impossible to raise such issues without having the wrath fall on you. Thank you, Mark Lentini. Now, what Mark did is he went to the Board of Selectmen meeting, and he's a 20-some-year employee for the grounds and buildings. And he worked for the DPW. And he basically announced at that time the dissatisfaction of what has been going on with the employees, the employee morale, and the handling of our employees by town management. Now that includes everybody, because it includes teachers, administrators, police, fire, and everybody else. What has happened to our schools, we don't know, because they won't give us that information. It is impossible to raise such issues. This just confirmed my investigation, because I asked for a list of employees that have turned over, and that list over 2 years was over 220 people.
Really?
Now, some of them were retirements.
Right. Now, when someone leaves and someone comes in, they usually they go with higher money, right? We don't get with lower, do we?
No.
That's the sad part.
No,
I mean, there's
don't.
a reason for it. You got rid of someone to save some money or something. But
Danvers has a reputation of the highest pay scales for all employees. And I even had the discussion with some of our new employees that are, I won't mention where, but they transferred, or they left the old job and came to Danvers.
I do hear that a lot.
Salaries.
I do hear that a lot.
So, right now, what we're going to do is we're going to leave the Beverly Airport, because we did an extensive one last month.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we're going to invite Dee Joko from the DEI committee. He has been a very receptive contributor to our town, and I've invited him for the next show, which is on January 19th.
Okay.
So what I like to do is leave that there. I have some clips that I'm going to use during that presentation and the interview with him, but I've already used some of these clips before. Beverly Airport is a meeting scheduled for next Monday.
Yeah, Monday the airport meeting would be Monday at 6
And
o'clock.
the problem with that is that the school committee is going to be appointing the new superintendent same night.
Same night.
Again.
Again. Yeah.
So, Danvers, look out for the appointment of the superintendent, and that's where I'm going after
They're
this.
going to appoint it exactly on Monday?
Yes,
Wow.
that's what they're talking
What time is
about.
that meeting?
7 o'clock.
Ooh, the airport's at 6, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, Danvers, thank you for the recap of 2022. We hope we don't have to go back to these stories, but thank you and good night, Danvers.
And thank you very much for doing a good job for
Thank
the town.
you, Tony, for being here.
Well, I don't mind helping you.
There's the last one.
You know,